Welcome to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogrammed Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. And Chantal Donnelly, physical therapist and author of Settled, How to Find Calm in a Stress-Inducing World. Here at City Club Los Angeles, we follow our guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Welcome back to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. We are back for the second half of our interview with responsive body practitioner DeborahRosen, AMFT, at City Club Los Angeles. Deborah gave us some illuminating information on how responsive bodywork and dance can heal certain mental disorders and release trauma stored in the body. We are eager to learn more. So, Deborah, can you tell us what sorts of mental disorders can be helped with responsive bodywork and with dance?
So, I have had the opportunity to work with a few folks that are diagnosed with bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, and PTSD, and I have had the chance to incorporate body work with them, and it does show an impact. It does. I see the difference in how they relate to themselves and even to me about being able to even look at me, especially my few bipolar folks, that's usually kind of and just and um and they do take medication, there's that, that's also helping them, that's um but when I initially started working with them, there was this kind of disconnect, and like I said, not even really able to look, not that you're going to stare at someone the whole time, but just the feeling comfortable enough to sit up taller, um, to present more openly, to be willing to receive what I have to offer, even, which has really been amazing that they trusted in me to, work that way. Um, I have, I remember working with this one gentleman. He actually wasn't diagnosed, but I'd like to just share this one because, I mean, he did deal with a lot of depression, and he was addicted to drugs for quite some time, but he was very focused, and he took to the mind body work so brilliantly. And I don't know, maybe he was just ready and he was available, because there's that, right? Some people, you know, um, and we had talked about so many different things about his childhood and, presently what was happening and things. Oh, he struggled from anxiety. Um, and I remember one time said, he said to me, I really feel like we need to go back to um, reflecting on my childhood and talking more about that. I said, okay, but he told me this at the end of one session. So I was like, great. So next week, I'm going to make sure I do that right. And I remember thinking about it, before we met. And because he had taken so well to the body work, I thought, okay, I'm going to have him sit down on the mat. And I said, so I would really love you to close your eyes, take a moment to, connect with your breath, feel the ground underneath you. And now, and I gave him a moment, just to set in. And then I said, now I really would love you to embody that 9-year-old boy. And he went there. I mean, for everybody, it's different. You don't know. But he did seem like he would be available for that. So I tried. and, um, and he was able to express all these things that he needed to talk about and get out and be honest about his parents. And he loved his parents. He loved them. But there was struggles, there was things, there was difficulties, and he needed to name it. And hmm, I mean, boy, did he start to really thrive after that, even more so, because he was already thriving. Like we had already like, I mean, not that anxiety completely goes away all the time, I mean, like, but that he had gotten to a place where he was feeling very solid and then capable to like go, "Oh, okay, this is what's happening to me," and not just have tools to like deal with it, like get into your senses, which is awesome too. I mean, that's also body related, right? But sometimes we deal with the five senses to try to get someone like grounded in the here and now, right?
Right.
But to go deeper than that, besides that, to like really be able to check in with knowing and being your true authentic self in all of it, knowing that that's okay too and trusting that, it's like kind of rebuilding trust within yourself, which is a really beautiful thing. So like, I just had to share that one because I was like, so, oh, for him.
It's beautiful when it works.
Hmm.
You have been through quite a journey. In the last podcast, we talked about how you started out as a dancer, a Pilates instructor, and then you moved on to getting the therapy piece, that brain down piece. And then you intuitively and wonderfully added that body up somatic therapy piece. If you could go back in time and start again, is there a piece of information? Is there some advice? Is there anything that you wish you had way back then that you could have made this journey be maybe a little easier, a little faster, a little more efficient?
I think the faster would have been nice, like just knowing, like realizing it. But I also honor that I'm where I'm at now. I just didn't realize it. I didn't know.
What do you mean by knowing?
Um, it came to me later in life after experiences that had significant impact on me that really helped me reflect on where I wanted to go. And I still wish I would have known sooner. Sure, it would have been great. Like would know more now, or I mean, because to me it's going to be a continuous process. This whole thing. But that's okay. I mean, I've always been a late bloomer, actually, and I accept that about myself.
Well, it seemed to have happened at the right time for you when you were most receptive to learning. You
Perhaps,
had
yeah.
something that really inspired you
Hmm.
to go down that route. You had experienced pain, you had experienced loss, and I
Yes.
think that just helps you be a better therapist. You
Mm.
have much more experience now.
Yeah. My choreography actually went that way too. I think I meant to share this before about you. Oh, I think one of the questions was about how did dance help heal me, right? And okay, we already covered that, right? But when I started to choreograph, I would choreograph pieces that related to what was going on in my life. And one piece was about my dad passing. And I don't even know honestly how that piece came together because I was such in like this kind of but when it came to fruition and we like presented it and then I spoke to people afterwards, um I really was like, wow, that was like such the journey to help me like cope with that loss, understand my feelings more. Um
It was beautiful. I saw it. It was absolutely beautiful. And just seeing
and that was my
Deborah,
first one too.
yes, seeing Deborah go through this, especially, we learned in the last half of the podcast that her dad passed away the night before,
A couple days.
2 days before her wedding, which was devastating. But what was amazing about her wedding was that it was one of the saddest and happiest things I've ever experienced in my life. It started out very reverentially with the memorial for her father, and by the end of the night, we were dancing like crazy people. And it was the most beautiful celebration. It was the most beautiful wedding I've ever been to. And that came out in her dance piece. Her dance piece was really an homage to him. it was a release of all of this pain and this, sadness, but it was also uplifting. And it was one of the most beautiful dance performances I've ever seen. And it's a testament to what, art can do for us as people. It can help us heal.
Mm-hmm.
It can help us be better people. And you do that through your choreography.
I think sharing stories is important, and that's the way I share stories. I mean, I did another piece that had to do with me having a hard time getting pregnant, but it was an inspiring piece in the sense that it was titled Gianone, Juno, the goddess of marriage and birth. And I felt that it was my way of being really hopeful about it and being positive about it, and seeing the beauty of what can maybe be, even though, like, that passed, and it still took time. But I also found my way of getting there, which was also beautiful. So, and then my last piece was called Fragmented, and it actually dove into mental health and the finding ways to express. I mean, I gave the dancers, like, they contributed to the choreography, and if you're going to do something like a piece like that has to do with mental health, you're not like going to be like, here's the movements, like, the movement needs to come from them and how they feel, because their stories were being brought to the choreography. And even though we didn't know, say, the specifics of their stories, their emotions fully came out on stage. And it was amazing when when it came to like the full piece, I was actually like, wow, okay, we did this. And they were like, I mean, they really put it out there. And I would give them cues about, like, where in your body do you feel, what your story is and what you're dealing with. One gal had just lost her dad. Another woman had lost her husband a few years back. And I know that was part of their story, but, like, it gave them the opportunity to just like really be in that. And not that you want to like showcase things like that in general, but it was just more about like actually community too. And like, how can we really be with one another? And it kind of reflected on like witnessing one another and listening and being available was incorporated in the choreography too, like in the staging and everything. And that was like, I don't know, it turned out really nice. And I would actually like to revisit that, being that I'm like in mental health, and and that I believe in the somatic approach to dealing with it.
Full circle.
Well, if someone didn't have access to therapy with you, how would they incorporate dance movement into their own practice to help themselves heal?
Well, I would go the practical route first off, and say, hey, there are folks out there that you can, like the American Dance Therapy Association has a directory right online, and you can look up your area and see about connecting to a dance therapist. And same with somatics. You can do a similar thing. And there's so many different programs there, though. Like, I mean, you could go to the Responsive Body website, and it does have all of us listed as practitioners. So, there's other folks there for that too. I do find that most people don't think about their body, though, when it comes to therapy. And I mean, I can only hope that they might seek something that's, that makes them active. Because it doesn't have to be dance necessarily, right? It could be swimming, it could be hiking, it could be, gosh, so many different things that somebody likes to do and be active with, that just gives them that some kind of movement. Of course, I do think dance and somatics is very powerful, and partly because it can be so expressive, right? Because if you're doing golf or if you're doing swimming, there is that it does help you move, but with my experience in contemporary modern dance, there's that expressive aspect that I think is so powerful and so key and can be so available, really, if you go there.
Yeah. All right, last question. You ready? This is an easy one. I think. What is lighting you up right now? It doesn't have to be professional, it can be personal. What are you really passionate about right now?
Okay, so that is decently easy, yeah. Um, so I really want to get into neuroaffective touch because I feel that touch is super key as well. And so that's my next route on my journey here with body. And in my personal life, I will say that I have a 7-year-old that inspires me like on a daily basis. And he he's able to say to me, "Well, Mama, I did that because I was feeling," and I was like, "What? You were what? You were feel?" I never did things like that or talk to my parents like that, and I just like knock, that my husband and I are making that kind of impression. I mean, he sees us get upset and like impatient and all those things too, but that we're able to go, hey, and apologize for it even, and share how we were feeling, and that we modeled that. And I honestly, I'm telling you, I have a kid who can tell me how he feels, which is, I think, amazing at 7 years old.
It is amazing.
And he's the cutest.
And he's pretty cute, yeah. Top it all off.
Well, we'd love to open up the podcast for some questions from our audience. So I don't know if anyone has a question. If you have one, please come down to the mic.
We have a question coming
Yay, we have a
up.
question.
Yay, questions coming.
Hi there. I was really taken with some of what you were talking about with the parallels between dance and movement and like the energetic exchange of that and the patterns in dance, and then like family systems and communities and group dynamics. So I think it could be really interesting to hear more about when one person experiences healing, how that impacts a system, whether it's a family or a community, and maybe what you've witnessed around that when you've worked with people and seen them change, and then the impact that has sort of as a ripple effect around them.
I love that question. Because responsive body is about actually making an impact on community and encourages folks to find their community. Because we all need that, right? That's a key thing, and we live in such like a big world where sometimes that's hard to have. Um, and I'm not sure I'm going to answer that question further in any way, except that I have had like a few experiences moving with the responsive body folks where we have these like discussions afterwards. So like we go through these body maps with the facilitator and do our dealio and like let it out and all this. And she gives us these different cues, and it gets us really kind of moving, and it does provoke the attention to the energies and sharing space and each other. Again, like I had said earlier, like you may not even know each other very well, but there becomes a comfort in all of that. You just move together. You just shared like that vulnerability to be in space together. And I remember thinking like, and we had shared this in one of our last uh, gatherings about, could you imagine if there was a facilitator who did something like that in our politics, and before like a big group of important people met to discuss something really vital, and if they did something that was more somatic together first, how that might shift how they deal with that big thing. I honestly think it would have a really huge impact. I think it makes people feel more human and more accepting, and hopefully more humane.
Beautiful. Fiona's snapping.
Yeah. Love that.
Do we have any other questions? Don't be shy.
That was a good question. Thank you.
It was a very good question. I know that, to tag along at the end of her answer for you, I do think that when one person heals, it does help the system to heal. I see it with families of my clients all the time. Once they learn to better regulate their emotions or be more objective or be more compassionate and empathetic, they start to see changes happen in their family. They usually come to me and say, "Oh, there's no way I can ever change my family." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's true-ish." But once you start to change, you're going to start to see change around you. And that's what usually happens. It's the energetic shift that the family feels where you're no longer in your kind of prescribed roles. Whether you're, a scapegoat or you're the black sheep or you're the problem kid. Once you stop being the problem kid, the system has to change. The system has to evolve. And usually what we'll see is they'll evolve upward with their, the sick one who's in therapy. And I always, put that in quotes because usually the one who comes to therapy is sometimes the most sensitive one in the family or the one who's really disturbed about the dynamics that they're experiencing in the family, even if they might not necessarily be the sick one. But
They're the feeler.
They're the feeler. And once the feeler starts to heal, then everyone else seems to follow suit.
That calm becomes contagious.
Yep. Well, we are pretty much out of time. Well, yeah, we're right on time. But we really want to thank you, Deborah. It was very inspiring to hear your story, and it was very heartfelt, and we all, could feel your pain, but also your inspiration towards this journey to become a healer. And we don't take that lightly. It's a horrible thing that you experienced, losing your father and going through what you went through. But we're so grateful that you are out there helping people because of that. And so that's how I think a lot of pain can be turned into beauty. So thank you
for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, so we're so lucky. And thank you everyone for tuning in to the New Body Insight podcast at City Club Los Angeles. We look forward to our next exciting interview and hope you can join in and tune in and involve with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the A New Body Insight podcast. Please remember, the content shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the A New Body Insight podcast tab. Follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.